Good, very good to be with you again. Bill Pfeiffer speaking from Mary's Field. We're doing this because it's a good thing to do for people's hearts. We're really gaining nothing from this except knowing that we're doing a good thing. Today I'd like to share a couple of my most special stories, ones that I just love very much, and I think you will as well. The first story is about a general in India around the time when the British, the English, had to get out of India. He was in a small village, and in that village was a venerable temple with a bell that the people just loved. It was centuries and centuries old. And he decided that he was going to take that bell back to England with him. And so he took the bell down and managed to get it to the edge of a river, which he had to cross in order to be able to get it to the train to get that bell back to England. And they built a barge. They had the army engineers built a barge. They put the bell on the barge. And as they got about halfway across the river, the bell was so big and heavy that it sank into the river and into the mud. He had to call in army engineers and so on, and they worked and struggled to try to raise the bell, but to no avail. And finally, one old man in the village came to the general and said, "Look, if we can raise the bell, can we keep it? It's a masterpiece. It's a part of our heritage." And the general reluctantly said, "Well, okay, if you can raise it, you can have it." And so the elderly gentleman gathered all of the young men in the village and sent them out into the bamboo forest, and they cut bamboo shoots and brought them back into the edge of the river. And divers, one by one, went into the river and tied those bamboo shoots to the top of the bell. And sooner or later, they got to the point where the top of the bell was just filled with shoots that had been interwound with rope and string and so on. And finally, one diver went down into the water, put a piece of bamboo on, and the bell started to come out of the mud, and ultimately it rose to the top of the river. They put a rope on it, pulled it back to shore, and replaced it into the temple. When I finished telling this story in school, I always asked the students, which piece of bamboo raised that bell? Was it the first, the 15th, the 20th, the 50th, or was it just that last one that the man put on there, the young man, and actually rose the bell to the top of the river so they could bring it in? And of course, quickly, the kids think for a few minutes, and they know clearly each piece of bamboo was a part of that process. And there we have it again, don't we? It was like the daffodil principle. We now have the bamboo principle. It's just an absolute marvelous thing. Small things repeated over a long period of time become you. They change your life. You know, Meister Eckhart, that famous spiritual leader, said once, "Little by little we grow." And he's so correct. I, with my students, would often say in Latin, repetitio est mater studiorum. Repetition is the mother of learning. So we would go over amo, amas, amat, until it came out their ears. John Wooden, the famous basketball coach at UCLA, won 7 national champions, unprecedented. He said there are 8 rules of learning. The first is explain what you are about to do. Number 2 is demonstrate what you want done. Number 3 is have the students execute what you want them to do. And then after that, 4 is repetition, 5 is repetition, 6, 7, and 8 are repetition, repetition, repetition. He knew clearly, and it's true in our spiritual lives, that small things repeated over and over become us. They become you. And so it's really important for us to recognize that particular principle, the bamboo principle, if you will. You know, why do you think Trappist monks get up in the morning every day of their lives at 3 o'clock and at 3:30 they're singing matins and lauds 365 days a year. I was there a couple of days watching this happen. And then they go back to bed about 4:10, get up again about 5:30, and 6 o'clock is mass over and over again, because it becomes a part of them. It becomes a part of them. Repetition is the mother of learning. There's a story about a disciple and a master. The disciple asks the master, "Why do you keep giving me all of these practices, these prayers, these devotions to do over and over and over again?" And the master says simply, "So that you will be prepared to receive enlightenment when it comes." In our case, grace. And so we prepare our hearts over and over. It truly, truly is the bamboo principle. Everyone who's an expert in the spiritual life will tell you that has to become an intimate part of your life if you're going to grow. Another story that fits here is when I was in the seminary. During the summers, I used to play baseball in a semi-pro league. And one Sunday afternoon, we had a doubleheader. And I went with my dad. We went to the ballpark about 12:30. About 1 o'clock, the first game began. In the distance, I could see the Allentown Cement Company with a tower about 150 feet high, out of which would spew the cement dust. I would start out at 1 o'clock with a blue hat, and if they were making cement that day, and they were on this particular day, they would this big tower would spew out cement dust. Little by little, the pieces were incredibly fine. You couldn't see them, you couldn't smell them, but by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my blue hat went from being blue to being white. You could feel it on your teeth as you were breathing and so on. You could feel the cement dust, but you couldn't see it. Around the park were beautiful little houses with red and blue and brown roofs, totally clear at 1 o'clock. By 4 o'clock, they were white with cement dust. One little piece at a time that you couldn't see or observe. The grass was the same. We'd start out with green grass. By the end of the day, sometimes the white ball would come at you and it would be bouncing through the white cement dust. I remember clearly on that day going home with my dad and in the car saying to myself, something special happened today, and it rang a bell in my heart. It was a moment of grace that somehow or other I recognized that in my life, if I was going to grow, I had to remember not just the bamboo principle, but the cement dust principle as well. If I was going to grow, I would have to make a choice, and I did on that day. I deliberately made a choice that when I had a choice between doing something bad or something good, I would always choose the good thing. I would make an act of the will and choose that good thing. And little by little, if I did that over a lifetime, boom, that would become me. And I'll never forget that. That was a really special moment on the way home. You know, not only had my the color of my hat changed, but the color of my heart changed as well. And it was again, indeed, you know, little by little, things had changed in my life. So don't be discouraged. Repetition is really a critical part of the spiritual life of all of our lives. And negatively, it works the same way. You know, you can, little by little, you can put a frog in water, and if you put spill water in there at 120 degrees, the frog will jump out. But if you put a frog in 70-degree water and increase it every 20 or 30 minutes by 1 degree, the frog will boil to death. So negatively, the same thing happens in our lives. So you have to be alert to that principle that, you know, the cement dust principle or the bamboo shoot principle or the daffodil principle. Each of them has a very important part to play, you know, in our lives. The things we do over and over again become us. You can't avoid that positively or negatively. And, so today maybe you want to make a commitment and looking and saying, what am I doing? How have I become this way? And patiently, be patient, because Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your life or spiritual life change in a day. But it will change as in the course of time, as you choose to do the right thing and the good thing for yourself, for others, for God. Little by little we grow. Pick up the scriptures and use them every day for 5 or 10 minutes. In 3 or 4 years, your life will be different. You can count on it. And I know that that would be something that I'm sure that you're looking forward to have happening in your life. Anything worth doing takes a lifetime. That's really the truth. Anything worth doing takes a lifetime. And so you have to say, what and how do you want to end up at the end of your life? Little by little, you will be able to see things changing in your life and growing. And little by little, other people will see that as well. And you'll be able to touch and other people. Transformed people transform people. Principle you can't ignore. Untransformed people, on the other hand, don't transform much of anything. And so you want to make your heart, your whole being available to those little things that you do over and over each day that ultimately become the wonderful and beautiful thing that God wants you to be, the gift that you will be for all of the people that surround you in your life. I hope this is a good message, and I know that maybe you want to listen to this over and over, because it's something that you may indeed want to share with others. But it's a truth that just doesn't go away, and it's a truth that has great power. We continue in our lives misguidedly looking for happiness in all of the wrong places. We just do that. That's the great predicament that we're in. And Jesus in his gospel came to be able to make that right. And part of it is this kind of principle, where you do the little things on a regular basis, and sooner or later they do the transforming thing in your life, so that you can become a gift for yourself, for others, for God, for the whole world in which we live. The universe will be different because you are different. So remember always, again, doing the truth today is really an important thing if you want to see change take place tomorrow. And here's an opportunity in a very big way for you to do that truth. God bless. Good to be with you. Love you. Thank you.